The semi-final, Villa Park, sent off for a stamp on Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, and he deserved it.
Touch from him to find Southgate. And a free kick awarded against Keane. And Keane goes in on Southgate.
Some players play football, but Roy Keane set standards. Standards most couldn't meet, and some couldn't even understand.
You always knew standards had to be high, you had to play well, and if you didn't, you were in for trouble.
He understood that we were there to win, and that was it really.
I think the image that he has in the public is not the image that I have in my head now of Roy Keane.
If I was going to name my best ever 11, Keane would be the first on that team sheet.
So the question is, how crazy was Roy Keane, really?
Crucial, he was saying some nasty things when I was injured, and I just thought we'd meet again.
When Rio Ferdinand arrived at Old Trafford as a record signing, he thought he'd stepped into a bigger club. But in his very first training session, a harmless sideways pass was enough for Roy Keane to stop everything, tear into him, and make it clear that this wasn't Leeds, this was Manchester United, where standards were non-negotiable. And in that moment, Rio didn't see a captain. He saw something else entirely, something ruthless, something that felt, quite simply, crazy.
His ability with the ball was mad. People don't realise, don't get no credit for it.
Great presence.
If you made a mistake, you knew, like before the manager, he was the one going to be verbally assaulting you. And you know, one of his favourite shouts used to be, "This is Man United! This is Man United!"
100%.
He was just
There's levels to
possessed.
this.
Yeah,
You said
yeah.
first training session, did you play it to the side or something?
I passed it to Nev and he went nuts. Like, this is Man United, play forward. But this is what I mean. Like, that's a detail that's so undervalued. Like, it doesn't get spoken about enough. Like, when you get it, you can impact the game anywhere on the pitch. Passing it forward.
That was the energy we had, and it was nice to know that someone's going to stay on your stay on your case for 90 minutes. Yeah.
But for someone such as yourself, who you've got pride, you know you are who you are, does that not make you feel some type of way? Sometimes you think, why are you always onto me, man? Like, let me play my game, because that's what we hear a lot of people. Let me focus on my game. It wasn't like that.
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because you know when you're playing at that level, yeah, you can't have people slap on your back all the time. You got people let you know, we need more from you.
I play against Roy Keane, and then when I come up to pitch, I remember thinking, this guy is of another planet. The way he's controlling everyone on the pitch.
Seriously?
Yeah, he's shouting and hollering. You do this, you do that. Why are you doing that? You better improve. What the?
And still receiving the ball
And
perfectly.
and this is the point where I think people that watch him as a pundit today, didn't watch him as a player live, don't understand. His ability to get the ball and pass the ball through the lines to the Cantonars, the Beckhams, the Giggs, the Solskjaers, the Coles, the Yorks, was of another planet. Was top level. And he could run and beyond the forwards in his pomp. He ain't just a breaker. He ain't just a tackler. He ain't just a shouter. He ain't just a captain. Roy Keane was the midfielder's midfielder.
And what a battle that's going to be in the centre of midfield. Roy Keane and Paul Ince coming into direct confrontation. Just one of the many fascinating personal battles.
Roy Keane for me was my best captain ever.
The best and biggest captain that I've played with.
The most inspirational football player that I ever played with.
Best captain I've ever seen.
Unbelievable leader, and I mean an unbelievable leader.
Roy Keane was widely regarded by his teammates as one of the most inspirational and demanding leaders in football. A captain defined by relentless drive, fierce standards, and an uncompromising desire to win. And at Manchester United, he didn't just demand excellence from others, he lived it himself, setting the tone through his work ethic, his intensity, and his refusal to accept anything less than the very highest level.
If you didn't attain the standards that's required to play for Manchester United, Roy would be on you like a ton of bricks.
I think Roy Keane. I think he's the one that stand out in that dressing room, I suppose. In a game of cards, he wouldn't want to lose. Even though if it's a little bit of money, five-a-side, he wouldn't want to lose. Yeah, it was just a born winner, in all fairness to him. You know, people will say what they like about Roy Keane, but at the end of the day, he was a born winner, and he won't take no or any nonsense off anyone unless he wins, even if it's for a fiver. Trust me, he's the hardest man that you can ever find.
But that level of obsession doesn't come without consequences, because behind the standards, behind the leadership, there was always something else, something volatile, something that could turn at any moment. And when it did, it wasn't just intensity anymore. It started with moments like this, when Roy Keane stamped on Gareth Southgate, and what looked like a reaction quickly revealed something more, not just frustration, but a level of anger that pushed beyond the limits of the game.
Semi-final, Villa Park, sent off for a stamp on Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, and he deserved it.
Still get a red.
You're going to comment on all of them?
The second one, Gareth was on his back. You always say the defenders never be on your back, you know what I mean? Always be on your feet.
Since Roy tried to castrate me at Villa Park 15 years ago, actually. Although, in fairness,
that was justified.
That was retaliation as well. So. Oh, come on.
Sorry.
Take a leaf out of Roy's book. Just let bygones be bygones. That's the easiest way.
What's the second one?
Second one, 1995, August 28th, early in the season, Blackburn at Ewood Park, dismissed in an ill-tempered
I was unlucky with that one. No, I was. That was 2 yellow cards. Second one was for diving, when I was taken out for, I think it was a penalty.
You dived?
No, I didn't dive, that's my point.
Third one.
The third one, the Premiership versus Middlesbrough at Old Trafford. Keane continued to be dogged by a red mist, and he was sent off for the third time in 6 months.
Yeah, that was a bit silly. Fjordhoff, remember the striker?
Yeah.
Janaga.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Tried to punch him.
And it didn't stop there, because incidents kept appearing, like the clash with Jason McAteer, moments where aggression surfaced again, as if that edge was always there, waiting for the slightest trigger.
Sent off by Uriah Rennie in injury time of the 1-1 draw after elbowing Jason McAteer following a number of heated exchanges throughout the game.
You got that one?
Yeah, but I should have.
Okay.
He deserved that.
Jason McCarthy.
Well, he was your Irish teammate, colleague.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
I wouldn't go that far.
Were you mates or not?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Just because you play with somebody doesn't mean you're mates.
Yeah, but at international level.
Do you know what? What you used to get to meet players who shout their mouths off.
Yeah.
I didn't mind lads kicking me up, booting me, honestly. But McAteer, as usual, had plenty to say for himself.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't deserve to be sent off in that game. Absolutely not.
See up there. See up there. Shut your mouth up there. Come on there. Be wicked.
Sometimes it didn't even need contact, because before the match had even begun, in the tunnel, Roy Keane was already confronting Patrick Vieira, turning tension into something that felt inevitable, as if conflict was simply part of who he was.
That was part of my game. If people are annoying me and then you have to put a marker down with people, or people might have been shouting their mouths off, or you've had incidents previously like I had with Haaland, then my mindset, he goes on about what motivated him. Sometimes you're thinking you'd have anger, that type of emotion, or you're desperate to win. Yeah, I regret any of them.
Is there any of them where you think to yourself, I was stupid there?
Not really, no. People were annoying me, and obviously the one everyone remembers is the Haaland one. I got sent off Newcastle a couple of times with your mate, Shearer. Oh, no regrets with them.
And when those standards weren't met beyond the pitch, it didn't matter who stood in front of him, not even his own manager, as his explosive fallout with Mick McCarthy showed a side of Keane that wasn't just demanding, but completely uncompromising.
As Roy Keane came home, confirmation from the Football Association of Ireland that efforts were made from outside to try and restore him to the Irish World Cup squad. This after Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern had offered to broker a peace deal. But Chief Executive Brendan Menton says Keane won't be going back to Japan, that sending him home was the right decision and that the alternatives could have been worse. Menton also claims that the spirit in the Irish camp is now fantastic and that new heroes and leaders will emerge.
The Irish, we do it our way, and I'm not knocking the Irish way, and that is sometimes a bit, for years, win or lose it. I got all that, I was embraced and all that, I love that. But you also know that going, listen, come the crunch, we'll be competing.
Yeah.
But as the years went on, you're going, hold on now, the game's moved on a lot of it in sports science, and for us to have qualified for the World Cup, it's not as if you qualified for the World Cup and it's on next week. It's not, you can qualify 6 months in advance. Yeah. So to go over there, you go, yeah, I've had these frustrations anyway for a number of years about food not being right, whatever. That's another story. And then you get over and the gear's not there, and it's like,
But
and it's a bit of and I laughed and joked for years, but then comes a point you go, Mick. But then I asked Mick, is it on Mick? Because when you go away, I bet you it wasn't on the manager to make sure the gear is there. No. There's obviously people in the background, administration, we do all that stuff.
Sometimes it's cost.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe that would come into it a little bit.
You were zero tolerance. No, you were zero in terms of standards and professionalism. You were zero tolerance. If someone was late,
but I always thought I had a bit of leeway with lads going, hold on, lads, draw the line now. And
yeah,
I had that with Ireland. But there comes a tipping point with everything else where you're going, hold on a second, what's going on here? And that's the bit where I thought, there's no going back now. Or even when you're confronting somebody, you know you're going to lose. I've said this before. The only one losing is going to be me. I'm not sitting there going, I'm going to have the last laugh here, no. But there's no going back then. And that's, I don't know if that's not a good or a bad place to be. When you're confronting somebody, you're going, there's no going back now.
Do you think Mick, though, I mean, he must have known you. He could have pulled it back as well.
No, he doesn't have to worry about me. He should be more worried than anybody else.
No, but this is not worry about me. Yeah, but everybody. But
you're on about.
If you're the one who's pulling, saying, like, what's going on? Then it's not coming. Then he's finding out from somewhere, well, that's not coming, is it? Then he's got to say, well, Roy's going to ask me again, and what am I going to say to him? And then his ego is now starting to.
But you know when you call these meetings,
because you've got a player talking to the manager in a way like the manager might be thinking, I've got to show that.
But I kept my mouth shut for years, even at United. People talk about when United, Ferguson called that meeting, and Mick McCarthy called the meeting in front of the players and pulled me up. I'm going, oh no, hey, no problem. You want to call a meeting up? Guess what? There's going to be fireworks, and I'm not a big lover of fireworks, as you know.
Bonfire.
So you're on about you just on about England, the girl earlier, white, going, we keep everything. All right, so if we're going to have a meeting at United, let's have a meeting.
You look back at now in 2002. What could you have done anything differently? Do you have any regrets?
If you're on about regrets, but at the end, when Mick, and the last bit where I fell out with Mick, and again, this is all in front of a group of players. It wasn't private chat. He pulled me to the side, and he said, "If you don't respect me, how can you play for me?"
Easy.
Absolutely, but I didn't say it at the time. I said, well, I'm not playing for you. I'm playing for my country.
Yeah.
But you have to respect me to play for you. No, of course I don't, because another manager might come in next week.
Yeah.
I've been playing for Ireland since I was 14 or 15 years of age. So don't you go on an ego trip thinking I'm here to play for you. I'm here to play for my country.
But nothing captured it more than what happened with Alf-Inge Håland. Because when Roy Keane lunged in, this wasn't just another challenge. It was deliberate. It was controlled. And in that moment, it became clear that this wasn't just football anymore. This was something far more personal.
I don't think that tackle was that bad. I really don't. I know it looks bad. You know when a player does a somersault?
Yeah. But
But the damage is...
It was knee high though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I was never going to injure him in that tackle. You can't injure a player with that type of tackle. As we know, if you play the game, you know when a fella's trying to injure a player.
Yeah.
It's just the fact when someone does a somersault, it looks kind of worse than what it was. And it was a City game, and it was a rubbish game, and it was a bit... I think we were all frustrated. I think we'd just been knocked out of Europe a couple of days before it. So...
I remember watching you walk off as well.
And I'd been sent off. You know, I got injured. I'd done my cruciate up at Leeds. And people tend to
against him.
Yeah. Well, obviously I tried to trip him, and again, players. He was stood over me when I'd done my cruciate, which was a bad injury, and he was saying some nasty things when I was injured. And I just thought, listen, well, obviously we'll meet again.
Well done, Keane, great, keep it going. Come on, last time. Keep it going, and again, keep going.
So was Roy Keane crazy? Or was he simply the only one brave enough to demand more in a game that rarely does?
He's the most influential football player I've ever seen.
How did you get Roy Keane back into the mix of things? Because he'd been out, hadn't he? He'd been manager.
He's doing the television a bit though.
He's doing a little bit,
yeah.
And then he comes on to stick to football.
I think people see the real him on there, which is, to be fair, more of the real him. He's just, I mean, he's a compelling storyteller, funny, loyal, great morals, family man, everything that you would want, but fiercely competitive. And I don't know the comparable in cricket terms, but
it must have been,
really.
you know, you just talked about Fergie. There must have been some interesting things with them too.
But there were, do you know something? For me, he was the Sir Alex on the pitch. You know what I mean? If you've got the coach that's basically unbelievable, you still need a player on the pitch that's going to replicate that. You know, think about how important you were as a captain on the pitch, and you know you're massively influential on the. He was massively influential to us. I mean, without him, I always just think without him, we were half the team. He was that important.
wow.
That influential.
So-
He's the most influential football player I've ever seen.
Right.
He is. Ever seen. In terms of in my career at United, he's the most influential football player that I've ever seen in terms of the impact he had on everybody in that dressing room.
So Brian Robson before that?
I was with Brian for the last couple of years at the end of his career. So my debut for United was Brian's last game.
Okay.
So I witnessed Brian for a couple of years in the youth team, and he was a huge influence. But I didn't get Brian at his absolute peak. But Roy is the biggest influence I've ever seen on a football team.